Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, July 31st. We've reached the end of July. Ricardo Arroyo, a candidate for Suffolk County DA, is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. The current member of the Boston City Council is from a well-known political family here in the Hub. Will those community ties, plus an endorsement for the mayor, make a difference in the DA's race? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Woods. Great to have you with us this morning on this last day of July. Summer's not over yet, but it's flying by, isn't it?
It is moving very fast.
Moving very fast. We're pleased to have Ricardo Arroyo with us this morning here in studio. He is a candidate for Suffolk County DA. He's currently serving as a member of the Boston City Council, as the first person of color to represent District 5. And it was what he saw as a public defender that led Arroyo to run for the office. So thanks for being. It's great to have you with us. Thanks
Great
for
to be
coming
here.
So there's lots of reasons to enjoy the summer, but unfortunately sometimes it does bring a fair amount of bad news. Another teenager was the victim of guns in Boston this week at a Dorchester Park. As a district attorney, if you are elected, what are you prepared to do that hasn't been done to stem violence, gun violence specifically? Or is it almost like beyond hope at this point?
It's certainly not beyond hope. It was a tragic loss. I hope we never get to a stage where we normalize this and just assume that this is going to be the everyday occurrence in any city. One of the things that I am planning on doing is bringing a non-fatal task force to the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. The Boston Police Department did a study where they found that their clearance rate, which was not very good on non-fatal shootings, could be raised if more resources were dedicated to investigating non-fatal shootings. And that same study found that those non-fatal shootings can lead to fatal shootings, so it's actually preventative as well. And so one of the things that I plan on doing at the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office is creating a task force with an attorney, with a victim witness advocate, and with an investigator at the office to help give resources to solving non-fatal shootings.
What about these police statistics that you just mentioned, that they are not very good at following up?
So I believe at the time when they called for the study, the clearance rate on non-fatal shootings was 17%.
Former District Attorney Rachel Rollins, by the way, now the U.S. Attorney has set up a hotline hoping to get more information on white supremacy activity. So as a longtime Boston resident, do you think that neo-Nazi activity like we saw this past week is on the rise, and is it instigated by in-staters or out-of-staters?
I think it's dangerous to assume that all of the white supremacist actions and all the folks who are parading seemingly weekly in the city of Boston are not from Massachusetts. I think that's a big mistake to make. The issue we have right now is the ideology of white supremacy that is happening to sort of, I think, you know, this is a long time issue. This goes back all the way to the Klan and previous to the Klan in terms of white supremacist ideology. But what their specific brand of white supremacy ideology does is it lifts up the founding of our country as a founding of a country for white men specifically. And Boston, because of its historic nature in the founding of this country, has become a beacon for these organizations. And so it's a large issue, and I know as Suffolk County District Attorney, anyone who comes to Suffolk County and commits a hate crime can expect to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Is there room for, in America, is there room for the voice? You know what I'm saying?
I think the voice of white supremacist ideology is, by its very definition, violent. By the very definition of, for instance, the Patriot Front believes in a white ethno-state. How do you get to a white ethno-state without actually speaking about violence? And so the reality is, I believe in the forum of ideas, but I believe some ideas are dangerous and they have to be treated as dangerous and they have to be represented. And as representatives, we have to actually speak out about those when they happen. And this is one of those times where our communities deserve to feel loved, respected. None of the founders of sort of the country that I know and love should be erased. And that includes our Black and LGBTQ+ and women leaders who have fought for civil rights in this country. And the ideology that they are preaching often comes with violence. I don't think it's a mistake that the Patriot Front's march through the city of Boston led to an assault. The event that happened in Jamaica Plain just this past week led to several injuries. I don't think it's a surprise that where this kind of ideology comes, violence comes with it. And so because of that, I do think we have to make sure that we are on top of every single thing that is coming out of these sort of platforms.
To continue this thread of the conversation, one big controversy on Beacon Hill right now would affect your job if you win the election. Governor Baker wants more people accused of violent crimes to be incarcerated while waiting for trial. Critics of the dangerousness law say it would only exaggerate existing racial disparities. Who's right on this?
I empathize with all victims, but Jane Doe Inc. included including Jane Doe Inc., folks like Jane Doe Inc. have come in and said that this bill goes too far, and I agree. One of the stories that I carry with me about dangerousness actually comes from my time as a public defender in Essex County. I had a woman with no criminal history whose husband had abused her. And he preemptively went to a police station and made a police report saying that she had actually harmed him. She had no record. She got a letter from Transitional Services saying that now there was a warrant. A week later, she shows up to court. She doesn't speak English. She's very confused about why she has a warrant. I have a conversation with her, and it becomes very clear to me that she was abused that week prior. The district attorney had a standing order that all domestic violence cases had to have dangerousness hearings in Essex County at that time, or at least that's what was represented to me by the assistant district attorney. This woman with no record, with children who had just been domestically abused, was held at Framingham until we could have that dangerousness hearing. That kind of injustice happens, unfortunately, on a daily basis in our courts in Massachusetts when we talk about the pre-trial detention of individuals, whether just or unjust. And so I think when you expand those parameters and allow district attorneys or ADAs to make decisions based on prior convictions that have no relevance to the issue in front of them, you may end up with more injustice in that way.
And so you are worried about potential more racial injustices if this is passed?
I think without a doubt we have seen that when you look at the data. If you just follow the data, if you make evidence-backed decisions, the data shows that race and class play a substantial role in how the justice system treats you. Justice Gantz, may he rest in peace, issued a study on racial justice and race in our court system and found that 70% of juvenile case determinations, the sentencing, was 70% of them were impacted by the race of the defendant. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to believe that in every other decision that gets made in a courthouse that somehow that isn't true.
I wanted to talk next about driver's license. The gubernatorial candidate Jeff Deal says that people gathering signatures for a ballot question to stop that new law giving undocumented immigrants state driver's licenses are being harassed and threatened. Do you condemn this intimidation?
So I just want to make sure I understand. Jeff Deal is saying that they're being harassed and threatened in getting the signatures?
Right.
Getting the signatures, right.
So frankly, I don't think anybody should be harassed or threatened, but I also strongly support the fact that we now have a license bill for undocumented residents in Massachusetts. I think it goes a long way towards effectuating justice. I would be opposed to threats or harassment, but I also don't know of any threats or harassment that have actually happened. So I don't know if there's documented incidences of this, or if this is just Jeff Deal attempting to get press during a governor's race.
But the bottom line here is
there should be no harassment or threats of anyone trying to engage in our democratic process.
And undocumented residents should have state driver's licenses.
That has my full support, and I would advocate as such as a sitting district attorney if I become district attorney, and I currently advocate as such as a sitting Boston City Councilor. This goes a long way towards effectuating justice and making our streets safer and giving people who are here and doing the right thing a way to continue to do that.
Ricardo Arroyo is with us this morning. We're speaking with the man who wants to be Suffolk County DA. We'll do the pop quiz in just a minute.